Let's have a look at all the items and the powers that are available for Genji in Overwatch 2 Stadium. In this series of videos, I'm highlighting some heroes and having a look at all of their powers and the items in the Overwatch 2 Stadium practice range. And in this video, we're taking a look at Genji. So here we are again on the previous server, looking at Genji's items and powers. And I have to say, I don't play Genji that much, so yeah, this is going to be interesting. But let's start with the weapon category. I see 4 hero items in here. And the first one is called Spiked Grip. It gives you 30% max ammo, and while climbing, restore 20% of your ammo every 1 second. I mean, doesn't sound too overly complicated. Let's just spend some of our ammo, and when we start climbing, you can see it go up, kind of avoiding the need for a recharge in that case. So there we go. I mean, I don't see anybody kind of doing a full recharge this way, but it can help. The next weapon item is already in the epic category, and that is Ambusher Optics. 25% melee damage, and quick melee can critically hit when striking enemies from behind, dealing 50% increased damage. Alright, that's what they call tapping someone on the back of their heads. So, just to do a comparison, this little standard bot is going to be my test subject. He's full health, and if we attack him from the front, quick melee, we got about 2 blocks. Now he's back again at full health. We're going to let him pass, and then attack him from behind. We got 3 blocks. That is literally 50% more. And it can potentially critically hit, so sneaking up on someone just got really interesting. The next object is called Enduring Edge, 10% weapon damage, and 4 seconds Dragon Blade duration. This is going to be a very boring Dragon Blade, but it's just to make a point. This is a normal Dragon Blade. Let's say 6 to 7 seconds. Now we're equipping the item and trying that again. And we got 10, a little over 10 seconds in there. Alright. You can't just let him stand there, come on. But yeah, that is a substantial bump up. 4 seconds is a lot. And then the last item in this category is called Swift Loader. 10% attack speed, which in Genji's case is very interesting. And then 30% max ammo. Now damaging an enemy with Swift Strike restores 20% of your ammo. So it's not only the climbing that will get you some extra ammo. I'm at 26 right now. If I Swift Strike this bot, we bumped up to 34. Now the fun thing is, if you hit 2 targets, we're at 22 and we made it to 38. So for every target you hit, you're going to get that 20%. If you hit 3 targets, that's 60%. I think this is actually more useful than the climbing. Moving over to the ability tab, we got a total of 4 items. The first one is called Traversal Kinetics. Swift Strike cooldown is reduced by 50% if it deals no damage, which in my case might actually happen. But yeah, a normal Swift Strike cooldown is about 8 seconds. But with the help of this item, it only is 4 seconds, which could help you if you're kind of running back from the spawn or something. Ninja Souls. I had to read that twice. A 5% cooldown reduction and 50% movement speed during deflect. Alright, so this is a normal deflect. We're back, and this is with the ability. Yeah, you move a little faster. I wouldn't call it extremely noticeable, but yeah, it is definitely a bump up. Okay, let's dive into the epic items. The first one is called Clean Sweep. That is 10% ability power, 50% ability lifesteal, and 50% Swift Strike with. Oof. If you combine it with the previous one where you get to reload, the chances of success are substantially bigger. But anyways, let's see how close we have to get. So if I aim right dead in the middle of these guys, since I am in a third person perspective, it is going to hit the left one. Or if we equip the ability, or rather the item, we actually hit both of them pretty easily. And the last one on this page is Deflecting Dash, 15% ability power. During Swift Strike, deflect incoming projectiles towards your reticle. In other words, if you do a Swift Strike towards them while they're shooting, you actually deflect a bullet. I'm going to try and do it from a bit of a distance so you can only see the deflect. Did you see the bullet? And then the survival tab. This time around 5 items. The first one is called Anti-Beam Coating, 25 armor, 5% attack speed, and deflect will now block beam attacks. So Zarya and whatnot are going to be deflected. That is interesting. But sadly I can't show you guys. Next up, Equilibrium Gear, 25 health, while climbing heal 5% of your life every 1 second. Now see, I like that one better. Right, we're pretty low here. Let's climb up. And as we're climbing, you can see the health go up pretty fast. At some point yeah, there we go. The self heal kicks in, but yeah, you could definitely see that it started healing as soon as it started climbing, and then the self heal took over. That is actually better than the other one. I'd rather heal when I'm climbing, but that might just be me. Sparrowhawk Feather, 25 health, and you gain an additional jump. So basically the double jump becomes a triple jump. Alright, let's move over to the epic items. The first one is Slicey Coolant, 50 armor, that is pretty big, 5% cooldown reduction, and 1 second extra deflect duration. So this is the normal deflect. Re-equip the item and... Yep, that is pretty lengthy. The last of the Genji items is Transference Delta. 15% ultimate cost reduction and convert 100 health into armor. Using Dragon Blade heals your armor fully. First off, the ultimate cost reduction, really important. But then you'll also kind of convert health into armor. And that's what that looks like. So let's take some damage and drop that armor a little bit. So we're into our health and then we Dragon Blade. And you can see all of the armor coming back. Which I think is a very useful ability. Alright, but that was the last item. Let's move over to the powers. Dealing damage with Shuriken grants 2% extra Shuriken attack speed for 3 seconds, stacking up to 15 times. In other words, the more you use your Shurikens, the faster they'll start shooting, up to 15 times. I find it kind of weird that not every of these abilities, these kind of stackable buffs, has something of an indicator telling you what rate you're at, because in this case, you can't see. But yeah, that one will definitely start ticking up. Alright, second one, Hashimoto's Bane. After using an ability, your next secondary fire throws 2 extra shuriken that seeks enemies but deals 50% less damage. So normally your secondary fire will throw 3 shurikens, as you can see. But if you equip that power and you do an ability, let's say dash, you'll actually throw 5. And as you could tell, 2 of them were actually seeking the bot. So let's do that again. If there's no target, well, I guess you'll just have 5 holes in the wall. It definitely helps to kind of get your ult up a little quicker too. Alright. The Sacred Shuriken. Shuriken's primary fire throws 2 additional shurikens that don't consume any ammo. That is pretty big. So primary fire, you basically get 3 stars, and instead of spreading them widely like you do with your secondary fire, you target them all in line. So you basically get 3 shots in a row. However, with Sacred Shuriken, you actually get the 2 extra, you can hear them. And the fun thing is, those 2 do not consume ammo, so they're basically free. That is almost a must-have. I don't see a Genji playing without that. I don't know. That feels like you need to get this one. Next up is Hanamura Healing. Critical hits and Swift Strike grant overhealth equal to 25% of their damage dealt for 5 seconds. In other words, all of the damage you do, all the critical hits, and all of your Swift Strikes will actually give you overhealth. But if you keep shooting, as long as you keep shooting, that overhealth will keep ticking up. There's a max, of course, but this is going to give you a little barrier, a little buffer to work with when you get attacked. And it is going to give your supports a chance to heal you up, so that is kind of nice. The next one is Hidden Blade. Gain 50% melee lifesteal and increase quick melee damage by 25. Not only is your melee going to be stronger, it also is going to give you a bit of a heal, a lifesteal. In other words, if you start hitting people, you're actually healing yourself. After you. Which is interesting. If you keep that in your rotation with the overhealth, you basically have a nice combo going to keep yourself alive. You don't need any supports at that point. And I'm a support player. I don't like saying that, but yeah, I mean, you're still going to die. You just won't have to ask for healing, okay? Anyways, Laceration. Swift Strike deal 25% additional damage over 3 seconds to enemies it hits. So basically, Swift Strike becomes a dot, or it adds a dot. So we have our 2 friends here. We Swift Strike him, and then you see them take damage. It's not a lot, but you know, sometimes it can be enough to kill him. Yeah, maybe could use a little buff. I think it falls a little short on the damage it does over time, but we'll see. Worm's Maw. Targets hit by Shuriken take 10% more damage from Swift Strike for 4 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. See, this is where the combinations start working. I see some options already. You can stack up to 50% of extra damage for your Swift Strike. Now we're going to try this on the tank bot, because he's the only one that is going to survive the 5 shurikens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Barely. Let's maybe just try it on 30. So 1, 2, 3, and if you should be fighting an actual target like a tank that is getting healed, you can get up to 5. And that is when your Swift Strike is going to, well, Whoop, they're behind. Deflector bot, 50% deflected projectile speed. During the first 1.5 seconds of deflect, automatically deflect projectiles towards enemies. So if I understand that correctly, the projectiles will fly back with a 50% extra velocity. And actually, for that first 1.5 seconds, you don't need to aim. You'll see that little yellow thing show up. See, where it just almost auto-targets. That is basically the new symbol for auto-target. Normally it sends it back at the speed that it is sent to you, so that sounds like a really difficult one to assess if that is going to be useful or not. Next up is Forged Under Fire. While deflect is active, heal for 60% of the damage it prevents. So first we're going to take some damage. And then we're going to send it back. And heal ourselves. That is actually pretty good. Not as good as I thought it was. But still, useful. If you combine some of these together, it could be an interesting combination. We've gotten a few self-heal abilities, so... But this is not my favorite. I think some of the others are better. Yaido Strike. I think I pronounced that wrong. But anyways, after the deflect ends, quickly swing your Dragon Blade once. We're going to get up and close. Okay. I didn't expect it to be that big. Okay, they're full health. Let's see. That is a huge swing you get every... What is it? Eight seconds. I mean, it's not something you can build on. It's definitely going to be a finisher. Good God. If you combine that with some of the cooldown reductions that are in the items, that could actually be pretty big. Alright, next one. Spirit of Sojiro. When the flag stops, incoming damage reduce the cooldown of Swift Strike by 1 second. Up to 5 seconds. Alright, let's do this. Swift Strike. Oh, did you see it tick up? That was pretty impressive. And then the last one is Dragon Breath. Dragon Blade swings launch a large piercing projectile that deals 50% of the Dragon Blade's damage. That was a mouthful. But yeah, your ult will basically become a ranged ult. So... You don't even have to get up close anymore. You just stand in the distance and you Dragon Blade all the way from over there. You won't get yourself in harm's way. For some players like myself, it's not as challenging. Actually, to be fair, I think you can get the same amount of kills because I think you're going to have an easier time finding everybody for the less experienced players. And if you do the extended Dragon Blade, I need to give that a try. So we're going to add the item where we get 4 seconds extra Dragon Blade. Let's do this. And these are piercing bolts, by the way. Okay, that is kind of insane. And the fact that they're piercing, that means that if anybody's standing behind them, they're just going to get a huge volley of strikes over them. I think even for the experienced Genjis, they might not agree because, you know, they're kind of stuck to their habits, but that is actually pretty big. I don't know, I'm not a really good Genji player, but I do see some options. Looks interesting. I'll discuss those in a future video. But that was all for Genji. Tell me, what combination of powers and items are you going to run with Genji? Let me know in the comments. I can use some tips. For now, however, that was it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. It always helps me out. I also want to thank my patrons and YouTube members. You too can become a member over on patreon.com/theomnicpost and right here on YouTube to unlock exclusive rewards. If you have a few minutes left, maybe check out one of my other videos. But above all, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Bye bye.